In the Nightmare of Eden, we get a monster episode, but it's not so much about the monsters as it is just about drug smuggling. But the actual cool sci-fi element of it is this incident that happens right at the beginning, where you have this sort of, I guess it's more akin to a jetliner in space, but I thought of it as more of an ocean liner. But basically that's what it is. It's a passenger ship, and they're on their way to their vacation or what have you. And but the ship, in order to travel through the distances of space, and I don't know if they actually spell this out entirely, but I often wondered if this would be a means by which to achieve the speed of light by turning into pure energy or something. I don't know, but they didn't seem to notice it as they're traveling, or that's how you do with hyperspace, and then you come out of hyperspace. But anyway, they're in a moment of molecular flux here as they come out of hyperspace into normal space, heading on their destination, and they seemingly accidentally, and it is an accident, but not exactly how they planned. There's a collision with another ship, and due to the state that the ship's in, I think it was the Empress was the ship. Don't really if they ever gave the name to the other one, but it's still not quite fully formed or materialized, and so the other ship has merged with it, and so they're stuck like that. And then in the middle of all this, the Doctor and Romana show up. So they got out and find all this. Oh, he'll help it and all that, and he's got to lie about who he is. And meanwhile, there's the Empress is run by a captain and his first officer, and the first officer just seems to be a grinning idiot. When we later learned it's because he's high on some dope called flax. and he gets killed pretty quickly. And so there's something going on. There's insinuations there's some kind of creature on the ship. And we later learn there's this scientist on the Empress, and he was using the Empress for travel purposes in his work, and because he said, well, there were budget cuts, and so he's got to use commercial travel to get where he needs to go. But the thing of it is he has a device that makes perfect digital copies of areas and planets and whatnot, and it's very similar. And I don't know if this was intentional or what, but it's kind of similar to the Carnival of Monsters episode, where you had basically all these pieces of worlds trapped, miniaturized in this machine for the purposes of entertainment in that case. And the Doctor got stuck in it, and he was on this ship that had been taken from Earth, and they kept living their lives over and over again, and didn't realize that they were basically trapped in some guy's toy. and all that. So this one is somewhat similar in that the objective isn't it's for scientific means, and he wanted to have these environments recorded and kept on his little machine there. He has an assistant, and her boyfriend supposedly died. Well, it becomes obvious he's in one of these little worlds trapped inside the crystal, and Romana gets a glimpse of him, but not sure if she actually saw him or not, but he certainly is there. He ends up running around the ship, and the Doctor gives him chase and all this sort of stuff, and eventually they find out that he became suspicious of the drug smuggling operation, and ended up being killed by the real culprit, which is the scientist, who seems like this eccentric idiot of sorts, but he's actually involved in this because he doesn't have the funding for his work, so he decided to make use of the drug. Now, the Doctor explains that the drug is so addictive that it destroyed entire societies, and eventually it was ruled, I guess, galactic law or what have you, to eradicate it, and there was a planet that was mostly made of this stuff, and so they destroyed the whole planet. So it's very hard to get a hold of. Well, they found a new source, and it turns out the creatures that are within this particular swamp or whatever, jungle or whatever that was captured on the machine, the native creatures in there called mandrels, well, they're actually composed of the stuff. Because at one point one of them gets killed, and then the Doctor realizes, holy crap, it's all flax, So that's the whole plot of what they were doing. And later, you discover that the other ship that was colliding with it was actually there to make a rendezvous with the ship so that they could beam and transport the digital record of these creatures over to the ship, and no one would know. And then there he would have his collection of the dope. The scientists would get paid, and he could go on continuing with whatever his work was. And there you go. Well, of course, the whole plot spoiled, and the doctor is able to make it backfire on them, where they end up being digitized and transported back on the other ship after the doctor has separated it. And they're trying to make their getaway, but they can't because now they're on the ship, and the police show up to arrest them. The policemen they look like the same type of cops that were chasing Zaphod Beeblebrox. And maybe they are. I don't know. But anyway, it's kind of funny because at the end the doctor figures out how to get the mandrills back into their own little environment there. And he uses his canine's dog whistle, and somehow the mandrills just really like it. It's he's literally the Pied Piper. But eventually he's got to stop to get out, and then they attack him, and then his coat gets ruined and all that. But it's at one point they don't hear from him anymore, and the police is like, "Oh, well, whatever. That's the end of that weirdo." And then he shows up. So I guess that was the end of that particular Doctor Who coat. So the concept of the merging of the ships is really, really interesting and really cool. Is that and there's different means by what they deal with it. I'm not entirely certain. At one point, the Doctor does get caught up in it, and it causes him to materialize on the other ship, which stands to reason that could happen. But with the way it was in flux, I kind of thought they could cross over anytime they wanted. And there's even a point where K9 just goes on into this zone, and he seems fine. So I don't know. It's a fun episode, and the interesting concept there, and also it's just a drug smuggling plot. That's that's kind of weird when you think it'd be something else or whatever, but. So I with the origins of this particular narcotic, it was all these creatures, and I don't know if there was any relationship to the planet or not, and perhaps I missed it, and this was the Eden was taken from it, but I thought it was clear that Eden was actually a whole planet unto itself. But anyway, so a good Doctor Who romp, but also very good on the science fiction element of the ships merging and the means of their travel and that sort of thing, and of an adventure in outer space, which is sorely missed in current iterations. That really isn't worth mentioning. So there you go, another fun Doctor Who episode coming very near to the end of Tom Baker's run here. This is the second to last season that he did. And so we have, actually 2 more episodes. One was lost for a long time, and then it was restored with the help of animation. And we'll get to that, and then on to the final run for the 4th Doctor. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.